Now This released a report on the impact of Trump's tax cut, and most of you are probably not going to be surprised to learn that it actually had a negative impact on many working families. So there's a bunch of little clever tricks in the bill that really make it so that it's not a tax cut for regular people. It's not a tax cut for working people. We warned you from the beginning that this is really a ploy to cut taxes for corporations and to cut taxes for the mega rich. Don't be surprised by that, man. Donald Trump ran against Goldman Sachs. He ripped Hillary for having, Goldman Sachs advisors. And then as soon as he was elected, he picked 3 or 4 different Goldman Sachs people to come in his administration. And they were largely responsible for, setting the agenda and determining the tax bill and all that stuff. So don't be surprised by this. If you are surprised by this, that's a little shocking. But let's take a look how this bill impacted working families, and then we'll discuss.
My refund was about half of what it normally is.
We were really banking on the refund. I called my husband immediately, crying.
So I went back in and I checked everything, and then I started to cry.
This year, I just don't have a refund.
My refund was about half of what it normally is. It used to be $4,000, and then I got $2,000 this year.
But this year, instead of getting back the $5,000 Wright was expecting and that she and her husband got last year, the Houston mom found they actually owed the government money. With the birth of new daughter Olivia just 3 weeks ago, Wright says her family was counting on a tax refund to cover the cost of her unpaid maternity leave.
We were really banking on the refund because we live paycheck to paycheck. We can't, in a sense, save as of right now.
With 3 kids in college, the Edney family is now scrambling. Last year, they got a $10,000 refund, but because of high property taxes, this year, they owe $10,000.
I don't think anybody would have been able to do the tax cuts like I did. We got the greatest tax cuts ever.
Isadora Bielski says last year her family of 4's tax refund topped $3,600. But this time around, when she did their taxes,
I plugged it all in, and at first I thought, oh my goodness, we're getting $8,000 back. And then I realized it was the wrong color. So I went back in and I checked everything, and then I started to cry.
I believe that he isn't showing his income tax returns because he didn't pay anything, and we are paying in money, and he's paying nothing when he's making billions or whatever he's at. So maybe he just doesn't understand.
We had no idea that this was coming, and I feel terrible for families that are going to have the same shock that we had, that refund check we thought was coming will not be.
This was also the trick during the Bush years. After the Bush tax cuts, same thing happened. People thought oh, yay, look, we just got a tax cut, us regular folks. And then when it came time for their expected refunds, they were either less than expected or people owed money when they thought they'd be getting money back. I mean, it's always been a trick, man. It's always been a trick. And I've spoken about this for years now. I never understood why the Democrats don't hammer away on the one argument that Republicans try to use to say they're for the working class. The one argument that Republicans always say over and over is, well, we want to put more money in your pocket, and Democrats don't. They want to take more of your money. And I know, and it's anecdotal, but personal experience, that is the argument that works on many regular people who earn just, standard income, middle-class income. that's the argument where they go, oh, well, then I like the Republicans because I want more money in my pocket. And I just don't get why the Democrats haven't stole that, because it's actually true in the case of the Democrats. When you look at the tax proposals, you know, you see that Democrats, as a general rule, want to keep taxes lower for people who are making like $200,000 a year or less. When the Democrats talk about raising taxes, it's mostly on the top 1% to 5%. Now, Republicans, on the other hand, they fundamentally want to raise taxes on working class people and just cut it for the rich. Because they always talk about how, like, 40% of the country pays no federal income tax. They always bring that up as if, like, well, they should be paying federal income tax. The 40% of the country doesn't make dick. They make nothing. You want to pay income taxes on what? On what earnings? On fucking 12 grand in earnings? You want them to pay income tax? No. Those are the people who need help. So this idea of like, oh, we're for the working class, but also, by the way, we want to raise taxes on people making $75,000 a year or less, and they do. And by the way, in the Trump tax bill, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation, every income group below $75,000 is going to see a tax increase under this bill by 2027. Now, by the same token, 80% of the benefits of this bill go to the top 1% over a decade. 80%. So all of the cuts for regular folks are temporary, and they have a sunset provision. All the tax cuts for the rich and for corporations are permanent. This shows you where their loyalty lies. And also, you saw it right there. Even the first year, people thought, oh, I got a tax cut, this is great. Well, what happened with your refund at the end of the year? So it's never what the marketing says it is. The Republicans also claim they're the party of fiscal responsibility. They just blew over $1 trillion hole in the deficit from their shitty tax bill. And then they turn around and say, we got to cut Medicare and Social Security because, goodness gracious, look at this budget deficit. You just made it worse, you assholes. So they're full of shit, man, and they'll lie, they'll mislead you and all that just to get their way. And then they'll pass the buck and go, blame the Democrats or something for why your refund isn't what it used to be. No, that's your fault, and it's clear.